Okay, let's jump straight into this explainer. Picture this, two kids, Warren and Idris. They wake up every single morning in the exact same neighborhood, walk the exact same broken sidewalks, but somehow end up with two completely different definitions of success. How does that even happen, right? I mean, they both pass the same families, just scraping by, the same students who've kind of given up on the future. In their neighborhood, kids were basically split into two camps, the ones actively scrambling to get out, and the ones just trying to survive the day. But here's the thing, surviving today is a whole different ballgame than actually building for tomorrow. So it really all boils down to one massive choice they faced growing up. Both guys desperately wanted a better tomorrow, but their families handed them completely different maps to get there. As we unpack these two journeys, I want you to keep this one question floating in the back of your mind. Which path actually leads to real, lasting freedom? Let's look at their dinner tables for a second. Warren's parents, they were deep in the corporate world, and they totally drilled it into his head that a college degree is the ultimate escape hatch. They ingrained in him that a degree opens doors, gives you those vital credentials, and honestly, earns you respect from society. Now, Idris's dad, he respected education, for sure, but he was having a vastly different conversation. He was constantly warning Idris about the trap of graduating with crushing student debt. He taught him that, yeah, a degree is fine, but ownership is the whole shebang. You need skills, you need relationships, and you need to figure out how to actually own your own time. And Idris's dad dropped this profound piece of advice that perfectly splits their two worlds. He said, a degree helps you trade time for a paycheck, but understanding money helps you actually create it. Think about that. Earning money means you're just trading your hours. Creating money means you've cracked the code on the invisible mechanics of wealth. Right, so fast forward to graduation day. The cheers fade out, the photos are done, and reality hits. Warren is sitting on this empty basketball court, so proud, holding his college acceptance letter. He is following the classic blueprint, right? Get good grades, graduate, get hired. But when he asks Idris what his game plan is, Idris just casually says he's going into real estate. And not to sell houses, no. Just to learn. You can imagine Warren probably chuckled a bit, clutching his hard-earned diploma, while Idris was gearing up to step into a complete unknown.
See, Idris wasn't chasing quick real estate commissions. He wanted to find the people making the real money. So what does he do? He basically builds his own DIY curriculum. He's sneaking into the back of these real estate investor association meetings. He's sitting there, quiet, feeling totally out of place, just listening to people throw around terms like financing, cash flow, and partnerships. He's up at midnight studying complex contracts. He's relentlessly asking how to spot opportunities and structure deals. He was learning the actual mechanics of how business moves. And the best part, it was an education nobody was charging him tuition for.
8 years. 8 long years. That is almost a decade of invisible struggle, massive rejection, and midnight studying that literally nobody else saw. While Idris was grinding through this, Warren was safely locking in a steady paycheck, climbing the corporate ladder, and soaking up the title that his degree bought him. Idris, meanwhile, is working a part-time hotel shift, watching deals fall apart, watching opportunities vanish into thin air. Honestly, it's so easy for us to look at successful people today and completely miss the years of unseen grit that got them there. There was actually this one really tough moment during those years. Idris's roommate, Alston, is looking around their tiny, cramped apartment, and he just asks outright if they're crazy for taking this weird, unconventional path, especially when they see Warren doing so well. Idris admitted, yeah, sometimes he wondered the exact same thing. But when Alston asked why he kept pushing, Idris dropped this massive realization. He said, because I don't want to spend my whole life waiting for someone else to decide what I'm worth. He was all in on the path of ownership, even when it was brutally uncomfortable. So after all those years of just waiting and prepping, a totally random night out at a sports bar turns into the ultimate game changer. Alston spots an old acquaintance, this guy named James. And it turns out James has 2 inherited properties that need a ton of work. Properties he literally just wants to dump to avoid the headache. Now, where most people would just see 2 busted houses and a massive problem, Idris, armed with 8 years of silent, self-taught grit, saw his exact moment. And here is the major breakthrough. Idris negotiates with James, but get this, he doesn't even buy the properties himself. No, he just plays matchmaker. He connects James with an investor he knew from his network. He structures the entire deal, steps back, and walks away with a $50,000 assignment fee. 50 grand. No hammers swung, no property owned. He literally just created massive value entirely through connection. Sitting in his car, just staring at that check, his dad's old lesson finally clicked. Income is a treadmill. You're trading your precious hours for a wage, sweating it out, waiting for a promotion, or grinding through overtime. But ownership is a tree. You plant something that creates value even while you're sleeping. He realized the wealthy don't just trade hours for wages. They leverage knowledge, they leverage relationships to build lasting value. Now, that one single deal didn't make Idris a millionaire, but it gave him absolute, rock-solid proof that ownership pays on a totally different level. So fueled by this new belief, Idris goes out and finds 10 acres of just overgrown, weedy dirt. He tracks down this contractor named Tony, who he'd met through his investor group. Tony literally laughs in his face. Like 20 seasoned investors had already looked at this dirt and passed. But Idris looks at him and says, "I'm looking at a neighborhood." He pitches this grand vision, 20 homes for 20 families. Tony asks, "Okay, do you have the money or the experience?" Idris says, "Nope, absolutely not." But what he does have is the exact skill to put the right people together. Right, so how in the world does a guy with zero cash and zero tools build an entire neighborhood? Well, he builds an ecosystem. He brings in Tony to handle the labor, taps another connection for materials, gets a mortgage lender to structure the complex financing, pulls in a civil engineer, a surveyor, and an attorney to handle the mountain of paperwork. The genius here? Nobody was trying to squeeze the other guy. They were all creating something massive together, where every single person involved benefits and profits. Idris figured out that true wealth isn't about doing every single thing yourself. It's about building a system. Let's fast forward a bit. The homes are actually built. Real families move in. The dust settles. And after every single contractor is paid out, every investor gets their cut, Idris is left staring at this jaw-dropping number. Over $2.5 million. I mean, wow. That right there is the literal scale of ownership. Now, instead of running out and blowing it on a sports car to celebrate, Idris picks up the phone and calls his dad. He brings up that old conversation they had way back when about prestige versus real freedom. And he tells his dad that he finally, truly gets it. He says, "I don't work for money anymore. My money works with me." He had officially crossed the bridge from just surviving day to day to mastering the actual mechanics of wealth. Okay, so 12 years later, our two childhood friends find themselves back at the exact same sports bar where Idris made that first big connection. The burgers probably smell exactly the same, but Warren and Idris, they are worlds apart now. It was finally time to lay their blueprints on the table and compare notes. Warren jumps in first, and hey, he's doing great. He's happily married, got 2 beautiful kids, and he successfully climbed the corporate ladder to become an HR coordinator, making a solid $85,000 a year. And Idris is genuinely thrilled for him. It's a blessing. Warren played the traditional game exactly how he was taught, and he won. But, as the beers go down, the reality of it all kind of sets in. Warren is still dragging around this massive anchor of heavy student loans. That debt literally followed him into his marriage, into fatherhood, and hitched a ride on every single promotion he ever got. And the scariest part? If his hospital decides to do layoffs tomorrow, his income drops to zero instantly, and he's back at square one. Idris, on the other hand, completely owns his time. He's not sitting around waiting for a boss to give him permission. He's out there creating jobs, picking his own projects, and literally building entire neighborhoods. Looking across the table at Idris, Warren has this profound, kind of heartbreaking realization about the limits of the path he chose. He admits that, yes, his degree definitely earned him respect. It gave him a nice title. People listened to him. They trust his judgment. But it still fundamentally chained him to trading his precious time for money. He basically sums up their entire 12-year journey with this one devastatingly honest line: "I earned a position, you built an ecosystem." Walking out to his car that night, Warren doesn't regret getting his degree. I mean, it shaped who he is. But he does realize a really painful truth, one that's perfectly captured by the great Jim Rohn. Working hard at your job makes you a living, which is totally fine. But working relentlessly on yourself, on your own financial education and your unique skills, that is what ultimately builds a fortune. So, stepping back from the story for a second, where do you see yourself in all of this? What kind of financial blueprint were you handed growing up? Are you caught up chasing the illusion of a prestigious title? Or are you actually doing the gritty, uncomfortable work to learn the invisible mechanics of ownership? Because the ultimate takeaway from this explainer is a really simple question. Are you just preparing to earn a paycheck? Or are you also preparing to build wealth? Think about what skills you can start learning today, completely outside of your job description, to buy back your freedom tomorrow. Keep learning, keep building, and we'll see you in the next one.